Hey everyone, this is Gene Park from the Washington Post, and I played 3 hours of Fallout 76, the highly anticipated multiplayer game from Bethesda Studios. And we were invited among journalists who are the first to play this game outside of Bethesda developers. The event was held at the world-famous Greenbrier Hotel, home of the real-life Fallout shelter, built by the U.S. government in the 60s to ensure the continuity of government. The placement of West Virginia in Fallout 76 makes a whole lot more sense, and we'll actually visit the hotel in the game later. But first, let's walk through the first moments of the game when you wake up in Vault 76. So this is just me getting my bearings and discovering the iconic Pip-Boy, which we'll find in a few seconds. And this is just Vault 76 that evokes the spirit of 1776 and the American Revolution. Here's the Pip-Boy. And you bring it up just like you would if you were playing any Fallout game. And the version that we played here is the Xbox One. So you bring it up with the B button. And let's just get this out of the way right now. How is Fallout 76? It's basically Fallout with your friends. You can have a squad of 3 other Vault dwellers, and it's pretty much how you would expect a multiplayer Bethesda game would be. But we'll see a lot more of that in a bit. Again, we're just walking around the starting area. You do not return to this area in the game, but you only pick up your basic essentials. And right off in the distance, you see a Mr. Handy, which calls me by my name, Gene. And it's a feature carried over from Fallout 4. And you're going to see a lot of similarities between this game and Fallout 4 in just a second. But I do want to talk a little bit about the survival elements first. And in a few seconds, you're going to see me pick up some supplies as I make my way out of the vault. Here, I'm picking up some Rad-X and some Stimpaks. Quick note, you do have a hunger meter and a thirst meter in this game, both of which I do not believe drain too fast. It never felt like to me that I was always micromanaging meters, but it does emphasize the survival elements of this game, foraging for food and drinks more. It's a lot like the survival mode of previous Fallout games. There were a few times where I forgot to drink water, and a dev had to tell me to be mindful of the meter, which will show up in bright red on the bottom right on the HUD once you're getting low, so you're never really surprised. Every player also picks up a camp system that you see right there, and the camp system will give you the ability to build workstations in the wild, and we'll see more of that function in a bit later too. I'm walking around here, trying to check if I can pick up anything else. But I will go into my special menu to level up my perks, which still exist in the game, but work a little bit differently. There you go. In terms of getting a job, I pick up my glasses because I wear glasses in real life. And we finished the challenge, and we're going to bring up the special menu in a bit. Every time you level up, you receive a perk card that's tied to one of the special attributes. And if you play any Fallout game before, you know what these attributes mean. And they work still pretty similarly. These perk cards are tied to one of the attributes depending on which one you want to level up, and these perk cards can be stacked. So for this run, I decided to focus on agility because I wanted to see how a player with a more fully formed ability point meter is capable of. So you see that I'm able to refill my AP meter by 15%. Later in the game, I was able to stack that with other Action Boy perk cards, and I eventually, by the end of the demo, I was able to get a 45% regeneration rate for my AP meter. For anyone who knows Fallout games, the AP meter also dictates how far you can sprint and how much you can walk, and so on. And we're about to leave the vault here, and once we leave the vault, we're going to see just how crowded this game can get. I think you might have seen Xbox's Major Nelson earlier in there, and here's the vault opening up. That's Major Nelson. Major Nelson is Larry Herb, who is become the face of Xbox's community. So here is the starting area, and you can see how display names work. Everyone's gamer tag will be showing up, so you see Major Nelson there. You see how the teammates, the system works. But you're able to add other players on your friends list, and from there, you're able to send out team invites by holding down the start button and going into the social menu. You can accept team invites as well. And you notice there's a block for session choice as well. If there's a player in your session that's griefing you for too long, you always have the option to remove that player from your experience. So this is the starting area, and this is likely going to be the most crowded part of the game for at least quite some time, where everyone will start right at Vault 76, and everyone gathers there. And as you can see, the third-person camera still works in this game. First person was always a given since the first Fallout games, and this is just basically confirmation that the third-person camera works. And you can see that we exit the place at nighttime, and we're about to go see the day-night cycle. And right here, we're gonna see me pick up my first items in the game, which is from this dead body, which is a pipe pistol, some money, and some ammo. And this is how equipment works. It's me, I'm still trying to get used to using the Pip-Boy on the B button and bring it up. And the equip menu works really similar. You put the pipe pistol, and there it is. For people wondering, you are not able to see the holster of the gun. So when you unholster the gun, it kind of disappears from your character overall. So again, another carryover from Fallout 4. So now we're going to go to the day-night cycle and to a bit of the hunting and exploration. As some of you might know by now, if you've been following the Fallout 76 news, the only humans in this game are actual real-life humans. That means there's a much stronger emphasis on wasteland wildlife and creatures. This game introduced far more creatures to the Fallout lore since Bethesda took over the franchise with Fallout 3. Again, for all you lovers of the first-person view, I apologize, but this was always a given that the game would be a feature first-person. But I tend to play Fallout games in third-person. If given the option, I would almost always prefer it in third-person, as one, it gives you a look of your actual tune that you spend so much time customizing. And two, you get a better peripheral version of your surroundings, and I prefer it when I'm exploring. I'm going to talk a little bit about the character creator in a second right here. The character creation system is a lot like Fallout 4. You are able to customize your ears, your hair, your eyes, and the hairstyles are very, very similar to what you would see in Fallout 4. This includes such hairstyles like the 9 to 5 and the Rebel. You can kind of see some of the contact hunting here, where we're finding some blood ticks, and this is the first encounter we had. And you see my teammates' names are highlighted in yellow, and that's how you're able to differentiate between people in your party and other random playable characters. Here it is a little bit of exploration from the inside and out. You can turn the Pip-Boy on and on for your as your flashlight. And again, this game highly encourages foraging since you'll need it for a lot of your crafting and for your camping. Next, we're going to see a great example of how different the map of West Virginia's wasteland is compared to the previous games. Bethesda acknowledges that their previous Fallout maps have been rather flat. The maps that we've seen before are DC and Boston. But here, you get a great sense of how hilly and rich the foliage is in the West Virginian wildlands. You never see hills like these in the previous game, and it's much closer to the mountain footsteps in Skyrim, or even the hilliest areas of The Witcher 3. And yes, this game does use a modified version of the creation engine that they used for Fallout 4. So imagine this game being played with some high texture mods and some green mods. And as you have already seen by now, they have updated the animations, so they're a bit more fluid and dynamic, like the sprint animation you just saw earlier. And let's talk a little bit about how the VATS system works. The VATS system is still in the game. As you see, I just used it on the Projectron right there. There is no slow-mo. It works as a little bit of a lock-on, where you press the LB or L1 trigger, and it will lock onto the enemy, and you'll see a percentage of how likely your bullets will hit that enemy. So time does not slow anymore, but you're still able to have a kind of percentage of how you're able to hit the enemy. And later in the perk trees, you're able to unlock the ability to target different bodily systems, such as the legs or the head. And let's see real quick a really good example I saw of environmental storytelling. Because there are no other humans to tell the story, Bethesda relies a lot on the environment to tell the story. And here you see a petrified corpse that's really similar to the kind of body horror that we saw in Annihilation. Some really compelling stuff, and I can't wait to see what else they put in the game. So next, I want to talk about the crafting mechanic for the armor and weapons. Again, it's very, very similar to what we saw in Fallout 4. And here we have your stash box, which is universal and is able to transfer to the rest of the map. And you definitely have an inventory system that will be over encumbered. So definitely scrap all your items to make sure that they have less weight on you, and you're able to put them into the stash box. The developers did admit that the idea for multiplayer started with Fallout 4, but stressed that it was only an idea, and none of what we see in Fallout 76 are leftover assets. They developed Fallout 4 solely for multiplayer and took those discussions about multiplayer into fruition with 76. But you already saw the seeds of a more MMO-like approach with Fallout 4, which had a robust crafting system that crosses over to Fallout 76. Scrounging around for scraps and materials is much more important than ever, particularly since weapons do have a condition meter, which deteriorates after use. It's just like the old Fallout games. And don't worry, if you're getting flashbacks to Zelda Breath of the Wild, breathe easy. The awesome swords and weapons you get in this game will stay with you unless you decide to trade them away. They'll just remain useless unless you're able to get to a crafting station to repair them, which of course uses the materials. So pardon me for barfing here, but we're just showing off some of the emotes that you can do, which is now essential to every multiplayer game as part of your social aspects. But we're going to also see a little bit of the training mechanic. Here you see us and our team running into a squad of high-level players, level 59 and level 60, and you see the different armor sets that they can get. So you see that the game is very much like an MMO, and that when you see other players, it kind of teases you for the different things that you'll get later in the game. New to Fallout 76 is the trading mechanic, but there are echoes of the barter and trade system that we used to see with human NPCs in previous games. Now, every player is potentially a merchant. You can drop items, or you can trade them for free, or for a price you set. I'm trading with a high-level character who is also sporting armor, and we're basically just trading knickknacks, like I'm going to give him this board, and he's going to give me some ammo. One of the other journalists in our playthrough found power armor and wore it even at a lower level. And that's another thing that I need to stress. Weapons are locked behind levels, so no, I can't ask the level 65 power armor character to drop me a Gauss rifle, unless that Gauss rifle is only a level 5. But I picked up hunting rifles that were only level 1, rifles that were level 5, so there's a lot of fluidity in being able to keep using your favorite weapon type. And as you can see, caps are still the main currency for the Fallout world. Again, this takes place just 2 decades after the bombs dropped, so this is the closest we've ever been to, the earliest we've ever been in the Fallout lore outside of the Boston flashback that we saw. Here's a little bit more of the training mechanic. And you can also click the R3 button to show offers only. So yeah, you can also see what they have, but you know, they can't, you can also see what they're offering as well. And no, you can't, once you do kill another player, they do not drop their armor or weapons, or if another player kills you, you do not drop your weapons and armor. The only thing that you actually drop are money and the junk that you have, the scrap. So you will get tons of scrap for being able to craft things when you attack another player. But when you do see another player with cool armor, you don't need to fight them because you're not going to get that armor that way. And now we're going to get into some high-level combat. Our dev guide inadvertently led us to what was called Deathclaw Island. And here is our squad of level 3 and level 4 plebs trying to take down a level 21 2-star or 3-star Deathclaw. There you go. I'm keeping my distance here, making sure that I don't get nicked while my teammates are bravely there. But here I am diving into the water. You can't swim, and it's still radiated, and I'm diving into the action right now. So I gained a level mid-fight, and there's the Deathclaw kind of going through, decimating our crew. So you see me tackling the Deathclaw, and I think you're about to see right here how the death mechanic works here, basically. Because obviously I'm about to get owned. Here I am trying to revive a teammate, and you use stim packs to revive it. So it works like any other multiplayer game. And here I am being critically injured. You can either call for help, or you can give up. You get a few seconds for other players to meet you, but I think in this case, we're all down. Let's see if anyone helps me. Nope, we all decided to give up. So when you do respawn, you respawn very close to where you left off, and you do drop off all of your weapons and loot. So it works a little bit like Dark Souls in that you have to get back to... Unfortunately, this means that I do have to get back to Deathclaw Island to be able to get my stuff back. And now you can see what I was talking about earlier, the perk cards, the perk card sets that you'll get. You'll get a set of about 4 cards, I believe. Here's a perk pack. That's what it is. That's what it's called. And that's what I'm talking about, concentrated fire, where I'm now able to focus on different limbs and parts of the body when I want to target during VATS. And here we are again, attacking the same Deathclaw that had us before. We're going to let the battle run for a little bit to kind of see what the high-level combat looks like. Here's me using the VATS and targeting the belly of the beast. So you can see that even though you run into a high-level enemy, it's completely possible for you and a team to be able to take it down. Despite the fact that this character is several levels above all of us, we were able to form like a Final Fantasy team and take it down. Eventually. So you see that we were able to take down the Deathclaw finally, and I was able to get some high-level armor that I'm not even able to wear right now. But this gives you a good sense of the kind of equipment that you can get at an early stage, even though you're under-leveled. So it's just faded out if you can't equip it. And here we're kind of in the center of the map. One of our squad mates is actually a West Virginia native, so he wanted to check out what the capital looked like. And so this is basically where the capital is. It's overrun by feral ghouls, and you can see just how vast and complicated some of the architecture can be, and how fast some of these zombies can be. They're a lot closer to 28 days later than they have been in past games. But you can see really the kind of work that Bethesda did in terms of creating like a complicated architecture and world design, despite the fact that West Virginia is mostly wildlands. They did a really good job in making many parts of the game feel a little bit more urban and a little bit more crowded with a lot of debris. Here is some of the creature design that I talked about earlier. A nascent snally, I could even catch that name. Hold on. A nascent snallygaster. There you go. And that's a new enemy type that we haven't seen before. And this is me kind of showing off the actual first-person mode, where it's just a lot easier to be able to fire and to shoot with such a high-intensity area. This place is also overrun by super mutants, which you can see here. And this is me using a shotgun. And you can see how the AI works as the AI is engaged with my teammates, and I'm able to kind of help out and come into the side. And here's the hotel I spoke about. You can kind of see the textures kind of slowly load in, but I do want to remark, because we did stay at this hotel last week, how accurate this hotel actually is. I actually personally got lost in the hotel, and because I got lost, I became very, very familiar with the grounds of the hotel. And then for me to actually find the hotel in the game, the Greenbrier, which is actually called White Springs in the game because of licensing issues, I was able to make my way around the hotel. I knew where all the stores were. I even tried to find my hotel room, which they actually blocked off. But I was able to navigate. I was able to find the dining hall, the banquet hall, and just some of the shops and the restaurants. It was pretty remarkable, the attention to detail. And here you have a really good example of the NPCs that you can find, the robot NPCs you can find, which act as traditional RPG NPCs and merchants, where they sell different types of clothing, different types of weapons, and you can trade with them as well. And now we're going to see the end of the demo area where one of the devs actually set off a nuclear bomb. And you can see the alert happen, and you can see where the blast zone will be. And you can tell that the devs actually had it purposely back in Vault 76, because the fast travel works, that you can just go back to Vault 76, or you can go to one of your teammates. And so we are all able to just kind of fast travel immediately back to Vault 76 and kind of see the timer go down. Now, I'm not sure what the conditions are of being able to set off a nuke, and I can probably figure that out later, but this is basically what it looks like. And let's just kind of fast forward through. You can also see an example of the photo mode that I kind of try to grapple with here, where I put it up and you can kind of adjust the field of view, and I'm trying to get the best view of the nuclear blast. And it's about to drop in a couple seconds. There it is. And boom. A little emote to send us all off. Really impressive special effect there, especially for something that's very emergent within a multiplayer world. And everyone's just kind of diving in. Since this was the end of the demo, we just wanted to see what happens if we went into Ground Zero. And I think I'm about to jump in too. But overall, I was really impressed with Fallout 76. It really is like Fallout with your friends. I'm really... There are questions about how sustainable this could be, in terms of how many different mission types we can have that doesn't involve folding storylines or player choice. So we'll see how that goes. But during the 3 hours that I played, I was not at all bored. There was plenty to do, plenty to see. The map is 4 times as large as Fallout 4's. So we'll have to see in November or in the beta when it releases later this month. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you in the Wasteland.